Excellencies, distinguished members of the PBC, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank PBC for providing me this opportunity to talk about this very important subject. Unfortunately, we are so preoccupied with the crisis and urgency of the economic fluctuations that we ignore some of the long-term threats and risks to the economy of the country. So I'm very grateful that PBC has chosen both climate change as well as the population growth and weakening of human capital as subjects for our discussion, because I've been writing about it, I've been speaking about it, but there are hardly any takers who really accept the importance. Urgency trumps importance. So I'm grateful to PBC for that. Let me suggest that the population growth has both mathematical as well as economic repercussions. And let me take the mathematical first. Assume a country A, which has an annual growth rate of 5% of GDP. If the population growth rate is 2.5%, its per capita income will grow at the rate of 2.5%, and it will double in 28 years. Assume another country, B, which has the same GDP growth of 5%, but its population growth is limited to 1.5%. Its per capita income would double in 20 years. Country A, therefore, suffers a penalty of 8 years simply because it wasn't able to contain its population growth rate. And that is the story of Bangladesh and Pakistan. 1971, Bangladesh had a lower population than Pakistan, and today West Pakistan has lower population than East Pakistan. And today Pakistan has 250 million, while Bangladesh has 170 million. And their per capita income, which was equal to Pakistan in 2010, has now overtaken Pakistan. And that, I think, is a lesson of mathematical. Now I come on economic consequences. Now, empirical studies have shown that there is a causal relationship between improved living standards and lower fertility rates. Higher fertility prevents families from making the longer-term investment needed to raise living standards. Rapid population growth tends to increase a scarcity of productive capital per worker, thereby declining the worker productivity. And that reduces the saving propensity and leading to lower investment and thus decrease in per capita physical capital worker in addition. So we have investment ratio of 15%. Bangladesh and India have 30% of the investment ratio. So you can see as to what the relationship between the per capita capital availability per worker is. In addition, there are collateral benefits and spillovers to other sectors from population containment. But what puzzles me as an analyst is why there is a sudden and abrupt jump between 2017 and 2023 in population growth rates in Pakistan. I haven't been able to find a very persuasive argument or evidence in favor of that. It's not explained, but my gut feeling, having been a participant in the discussions at the cabinet and other meetings, I can submit that there is a pressure from different political parties that the respective areas or sub-provincial entities should show this specific population figure. Otherwise, they would reject the results overnight. And they have made this publicly known. This has given me a lot of skepticism about the veracity and the validity of the reported numbers. Correlated variables, which economists look for the population growth rate, such as child mortality, female enrollment ratios, CPR, do not substantiate this abrupt jump between 2017 and 2022. In my humble view, the exceptionally high weight assigned to the population, which is 82% in the NFC award, and the delimitation of constituencies with varying electorate count do lead to political pressures for exaggeration and overestimation. And I will now share with you what Indian experience has been, where the southern states of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala, and Karnataka have done extremely well as far as the population growth is concerned compared to UP, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan. And that is what they decided, that all the population estimates would be frozen at the 1971 census. So there is no urgency or there is no pressure to use the latest numbers in order to award even on the administrative allocation of taxes or delimit the constituencies. The weight, and this has been frozen for 5 decades, from 1971 till 2000, and I think 21. The weight of the population and allocation of divisible tax pool was reduced in India, and more weight was assigned to backwardness, poverty, and tax effort. As a result, the southern states were able to show impressive demographic performance and decline in total fertility rate, as they were not penalized for lower population count. At the same time, they earned a premium as their lower population count did not deprive them of the number of seats in Lok Sabha. Otherwise, if you had the latest count, the representation of the southern states would have been much lower than what it actually is. So if the actual population numbers were taken to delimit the constituencies, they would have fewer number of seats, and their political weight would have been much lower. Under those circumstances, there was no incentive for the southern states to work hard to contain population. In Indus Gangetic Plains of the north, the peninsular states of the south and the west have shown a huge difference. Rajasthan had an expansion of 166% of population in 1971 to 2011, while Kerala had only 56%. This is the result of avoiding the perverse incentive of using population as the determinant of the NFC award or the delimitation of the constituency. That's the point I wanted to derive. So I would like to tell you that the social indicators and economic indicators in these 5 states were closely correlated with low fertility rates. They had high proportion of urban population. They had high female labor force participation rates. They have low illiterates among the reproductive age females. They had better health outcomes and health status outcomes, including the child mortality rate, higher CPR, lower share of agriculture. And therefore, the southern states today have the total fertility rate of 1.6, while UP, Bihar have between 3 and 3.2, which is higher than Pakistan. And this point is not known in Pakistan, that within your own country, you have two differential pathways as far as the population growth is concerned. And this is the result of the policy and incentive structure rather than anything else. So why I have described what the pressures are on the political side, but as usual, my own analysis that why we have lagged behind both India and Bangladesh, which I have documented in my latest book, Development Pathways, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, 1947 to 2022, shows that it is a mix of weak governance, poor management, and dysfunctional institutions in the delivery of basic public services: education, health, potable drinking water, sanitation, solid waste disposal, social development, and these have also perpetuated income, regional, and gender inequalities. So there's not only that you have lower access to the services, but it has also created a wedge between Balochistan, rural Sindh, southern Punjab, the southern KP, and the merged districts. Islamabad, Karachi, and Lahore, ladies and gentlemen, have 95% non-poor living in their jurisdictions. Avaran, Musa Khel, and 18 districts of Balochistan and KP have 90 to 95% poor living in their jurisdictions. And that is because the access to the basic services are not available in those areas. So that is the policy failure, that we have developed models of huge urban agglomeration and neglected the population living in those backward districts and backward areas of Pakistan. And it has repercussions for the population growth because the females are not participating in the labor force, and they are not educated, and therefore you have this huge population bulge in these areas. And now the data is available at the district level. This is something good in Pakistan, that as a researcher, now I can tap the district level data, and I can construct a deprivation index based on certain indicators as to which districts are really doing well or otherwise. As my time is limited, I would like to bring your attention to the period 2001 and 2007-8, when we had the local government system. When all these basic services were devolved from the provincial governments to the local governments, all surveys show and social audit reports show that the level of satisfaction with the delivery of public services was much higher than the pre-devolution or the post-devolution period. People were getting access because the union councils and the district councils were taking the decisions in the larger interests of the community. And they were willing to pay for the services because the tax didn't disappear in a black box in Islamabad. They knew what the tax and the services fee is going to do for them. So this, I think, is the future solution for improving the access to public services. And I would submit that this 18th Amendment is good, but it is incomplete. It has to be devolved down to the district level, and the criteria for allocation should be more on the basis of the backwardness, of the social indicators, and lack of economic opportunities, rather than on the question of having population. The rate of the population should be reduced. And tax efforts by Punjab and Sindh, which are the two prosperous provinces, should be taken as one of the criterion for the allocation. Now I come to the question of human capital. There is now no doubt in anybody's mind that the nexus of technology and human capital is the determinant for the future of a country's progress and prosperity in the 21st century, where knowledge economy is going to be the major driver. What we have to do is not only look at the stunting of our 40% children, not only look at the out-of-school children, which are 25 to 26 million. We have to look at the what is now World Bank calls as the literacy poverty. Well, we have to look at introducing science and mathematics at the school level in order to prepare STEM. China is known for its progress, but people don't realize that behind this was a revolution, silent revolution, in the number of STEM graduates from China. 2010, and I told this last night to some of my friends, 2010, China was behind the United States as far as the STEM graduates were concerned. Before 2010, they caught it up. And 2024, China has 3 million STEM graduates every year. The United States has 520,000, 1/6 of what China is producing every year. And what is happening as a consequence? You are following the China. Hawaii was denied the access to the US market. Now Hawaii and BIVD all are overtaking the US firms, both in the telecom equipment as well as in the electric cars. Tesla is now number 2. An Australian think tank has mentioned that out of 10 emerging technologies, China is leading in 7 out of 10. The US is leading in 3. This is what we need in this country. You are all business tycoons. You know you require technical and vocational training for the young men. It's only 1% enrollment in this country. You need R&D expenditure, which is pathetic, both by the public sector. I was asked by the Prime Minister to look at the agriculture research system in Pakistan. We have PhDs from the top universities all over the world. 90% of the budget allocation goes for their salaries and pensions and emoluments, so there is nothing left. Pakistan Central Cotton Committee was producing the world-class scientists who revolutionized the whole cotton in Pakistan. Today, there is no money for Pakistan Central Cotton Committee. It has shut down its doors. And that is where the country's future lies. So this is what this nexus between technology and this whole scientific education, research and development is going to make a difference. People talk about industry, academia linkages. That's not happening. It's happening in very few cases. And I would suggest the PBC should take a lead through SERP in order to strengthen the linkages between our universities and our businesses so that there is a mutual benefit. Finally, on the gender, there is no doubt in my mind that unless you have female empowerment, both in terms not only of education, but also in their deployment in the labor force, we're not going to have any significant difference as far as our objectives of sustained equitable growth is concerned. I am very happy to report to you that during 8 years at IBA, out of 12 persons on the dean's list, 10 to 11 used to be girls. And that was a moment of happiness for me, but what was sad, that out of those, only very few were able to join the labor force. Look how much loss we are creating for the economy when your bright and the best talent is not engaged in your labor force participation. Bangladesh has 36%, labor force female participation. And there is neat and clean environment in the house. There is nutrition for the children. They go to the best schools. They have health facilities, and they have a reproductive age which is very well planned. And look why the population has been reduced and why the export earnings, I visited Bangladesh recently, 80% of the labor force was the females. So unless we overcome these taboos and the social norms which are inhibiting our females to fully participate in our labor force, as well as treat them equally, I was very sad when one of my alumnus reported to me कि सर मैं उनको लड़कियों को इसलिए नहीं करता एम्प्लॉय कि अगर मैंने एम्प्लॉय कर लिया तो वो तो 2 साल 2.5 साल में मैं इतना उनके ऊपर ट्रेनिंग पे खर्च करूँगा और वो ट्रेन होके फिर वो अपने घर जाके बैठ जाएंगी. If you have that kind of attitude, then God, is not going to help us. You must have means for flexible working hours with the daycare centers, with the mobility for no discrimination between their wages and the wages of the males. And that is where the future is. So thank you very much for providing me this opportunity, and I hope that PBC will continue to take this up further rather than leave it as a speech at the conference. Thank you very much.